What's up, everybody? What is shaking? Welcome back to another edition of Turntable Tales. I'm here with Brandon once again. Brandon, what's up, baby?
Not much, man. Doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, man. I'm always doing good on a Wednesday, so no complaints.
Time to smile.
Time to smile, man. This is going to be a fun one. This one literally got created during our last stream because it was like, oh, man, sometimes you do something and it just spins right into something else. What's up, AA? Good to see you, man. And so this was that thing. This is a spin-off, kind of like those old 80s TV shows when they spin off some other show from it. And that's what happened here. Mm-hmm. So today we're going to talk about 80s. I know that's a shocker for people. But we're going to talk about 80s synth songs, like greatest synth songs, killer synth songs. Who knows what direction we'll go into, but this one's going to be fun, man. And we try, as always, we try to confine it to like a reasonable amount of albums, and it always spins out of control from there. So who knows, man? We might be here a while. So, couple reminders, just one. I'm going, if you don't know this yet, I'm going live daily, every day, Monday through Thursday at 8 p.m., Friday at 6 p.m. So I'll keep it short and sweet, but definitely consider subscribing, hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything. I will be here every day vibing out and having fun. So, yeah, man, we kind of talked about it. Like, we got to do 80s synth. And of course, I swear, I'm always guilty of like creeping in a little bit into like other decades. I maybe got started a little bit in the late 70s. I don't know, man. What about you? Were you able to keep it in the 80s or?
Yeah, I mean, most of it stayed in the 80s, but yeah, I mean, I think I have one or two albums that kind of came out in the late 70s and one that even came out in the early 90s. But
yeah.
It was still off of all of that 80s synth pop vibe, and more or less it was just an album that didn't make it under the official timeline, but it's still all part of that 80s synth that's so awesome.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's bands that came out in the 70s. A lot of bands that came out right at the tail end of the 70s, which I think all of us think of them as 80s bands, right? And so, and some of those 80s bands got to hang on into the grunge era a little bit. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of cool too. Well, heck, man, might as well just kick this off. Should we flip a coin? Do you want to go first? What do you think?
Actually, you let me go first last time, so I'll give you the honors this time. You can go first.
All right. Well, today I did something nutty again. I'm going chronological, so I'm gonna just kind of go through this, and I don't know, maybe we can glean something from this, as we kind of see. And really, I think I spanned pretty much the entire 80s here, so this might be kind of cool seeing it this way. And the first one again came out in the late 70s, and this is the first Devo album. Mm-hmm. And this has got some cool stuff. I mean, this is a lot of people consider this diehards, are going to say this is their greatest album, that they just kind of, by their second album, I think Brian Eno was producing them. And if you hear the band talk about it, maybe they didn't get their way on everything. And a lot of fans kind of support that, when the bands complain, it's like, yeah, man, how come you didn't let them do their thing? But I think every Devo album is fantastic. So whoever produced it, I don't care. Like, it's amazing. But this one's got some really cool stuff on it. This has got stuff like Space Junk. This is not going to have a lot of the hits that people think about when they think of Devo, but it's got like, I think Space Junk is a big one. Jocko Homo. I Can't Get No Satisfaction is on here. Which is obviously a Rolling Stones song, but they do their version of it. And they were still super guitar heavy during this era, which I love because their guitar sound is so cool. But they were already dipping into those synths and stuff. So you look at stuff like, again, Space Junk and then some others. And you get some real nice this is late 70s, early synth stuff. That's just really kick-ass. So I had to go here. It was tough for me because I love Devo so much and I love all their albums. I'm not saying this is the go-to synth Devo album by any means, but I thought I would show some love to some of this early stuff. So there we go. Are We Not Men? We Are Devo right there.
Nice. Yeah, Devo definitely one of the bands that made put their stamp on that era for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What you got?
And well, the first one I'm going to go with, I mean, this to me is just the most obvious band that you're automatically going to default to as soon as you start talking about synth pop, or just synth, using the synth in general. Matter of fact, I know that we said it was so obvious that we were like, we do not get to pick more than 2 albums by this band. That's just
We
and
could
so
do a whole video on this band, man.
exactly. And I'm sure everyone probably knows who that is. And I'm starting off here with Depeche Mode. And
Nice.
and again, so many that you can pick from Depeche Mode, obviously. I mean, just album after album after album. So I'm going to start with Black Celebration, and I'm just going right to the song Stripped. You know, I think out of all of their, you know, hits and things that everyone knows, to me, that's the one that just doesn't quite get the same credit as, you know, Personal Jesus and Policy of Truth and, like, you know, all that amazing stuff. But yeah, Stripped has always been one of my favorite songs by them. And the thing I've always liked about Depeche Mode is I think when the synth kind of really came in and took over pop music and all that type of stuff, one of the great things about it is there were so many bands that were very colorful with it. That's always what I think about with the 80s is the bright neon and kind of the silliness and the happiness and the carefree. But Depeche Mode is one of those bands that also saw the other side of the synth, which wasn't necessarily quote unquote dark, but it was like intense. And like, you know, it was almost like sexy is a word that you would use. There was something a little more adulty about it. And that's just the thing to me that they just nailed so well with everything that they did. And Stripped is just kind of a perfect example of that. Like when you envision him singing that song, like it's somebody in your face, like mean mugging you, singing that with just like such an intensity to it. And you're just like, heck yeah, man. So that's my first pick is Stripped by Depeche Mode.
That is a fantastic pick.
Yeah.
And you kind of you did a great job of just breaking down Depeche Mode in general and kind of David Gaughan's kind of whole vocal approach, man. That's a great one.
Yeah.
That's a great one. What's up, Wyoming Dave, man? Good to see you.
What's up?
Next one for me is, I think there's going to be some overlap to last show because it was inspired by last show. And this is one. So this is Gary Numan's Pleasure Principle.
Yeah.
It has the song Cars on it. And man, this is probably one of the first times where I heard that 80s sound. And this is another one that I think is probably 1979 or something. And it's just, yeah, Gary Numan, man, one of the pioneers, along with guys like Howard Jones, obviously Depeche, that really kind of pioneered that early synthesizer sound, you know, for the 80s. And so I'm just going to spotlight Cars. I mean, obviously there's great stuff on here. It's a really fun record in general. Not a one-hit wonder, actually, surprisingly. I think people think of Cars like, well, what else did he do?
Yeah.
It's a really good album. And so, yeah, I got to spotlight Cars in general. Just and he's another one, too, that has this very unique voice, like a Dave Gaughan with Depeche Mode, that just lends itself so well to the times. And I mean, the 80s were really built on the backs of these early guys, man. And so, yeah, I got to call out Gary Numan here. Pleasure Principle is the record. The song is Cars. And yeah, a synth masterpiece for me.
Yeah, that's a great one. Matter of fact, I didn't pick that one because I was like, I know he's going to pick that. That has to be one. But yeah, I actually remember seeing an interview that they were doing with Gary, like way back in the day when he first came on the scene and Cars was hitting. And one of the things he was talking about was just how much it bothered him by the way people were criticizing his use of the synth. Well, like it wasn't musical and it wasn't really an instrument. It wasn't, he was just kind of doing the whole, like, people just need to shut up. Like, why do they care? Why do they? But it's like, yeah, they weren't ready for it then, but he was all over it.
Yeah, it became like almost an ambient sound for a lot of bands where it's not, yeah, it didn't have to be melodic. It could just build an atmosphere and then play something on top of it. And yeah, you're right. I think he's one of those guys that really pioneered that style.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. All right, the next one I'm going to go with here. Again, another band I think you have to find in this conversation, OMD. I mean, just, again, another legendary band that everyone kind of knows, especially with, you know, gigantic hits like If You Leave, you know, was obviously a huge one for them. But the song I'm actually going to go with off of, because this is their greatest hits album, the best of, the song I'm going to go with is Souvenir. That's actually the song I want to pick.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that one?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I remember the first time I heard that song, it was on a soundtrack. and I just didn't really pay attention to who the band was and all of that. And I just assumed it was some female artist that I'd never heard of before.
Yeah.
And then when I actually went and looked and saw it was OMD, and it was just kind of like, that is freaking awesome. And I love the video to it as well, because the video looks like it was shot with one of those old VHS shoulder held. I mean, just the most basic shots and all of that. But kind of like you were saying a second ago, just the way they use the synth to create, how did you say, like a palette,
like an atmosphere? Yeah.
Yeah, like an atmosphere for it. And it's just one of those, like, here is 80s love. And it's like, that's the atmosphere. Now, everything that you're going to experience, the lyrics and everything else on top of it, is just going to float on top of this 80s new wave love. Yeah. And I mean, and it's a song that just nails it. It takes me to another place every time I hear it. So that's one that definitely has to make my list.
I have to check that out because I don't have any OMD. And to be honest, I didn't even realize they had a best greatest hits on wax. So that's really cool. Don't they do that song Secret too?
Yep.
I love that one too, man. Yeah.
That's on here too.
Okay. I got to pick that up, man. That's good stuff. AA is calling out Electricity by OMD too, man.
Yeah. That one's also on there. So like I said, so many good ones.
I know. It's impossible to just pick one off each of these albums, man, because a lot of these are just packed with great synth tunes. So, again, going back to, I'm sure I've showed this at some point, but I had to call this one out as well. Fantastic tune on here, and this is SOS Band, and they're doing "Take Your Time, Do It Right" on here, and that's one that just, it's in my DNA, man. It's just, I was young and listening to this stuff, probably less than 10 years old, or maybe not, probably 9 years old or whenever, and this just got ingrained into the DNA, man, and it's just. It's funky. This is using a synth maybe more traditionally in the sense that it's funky and it's using a great bass line out of it and stuff like that, as opposed to like atmosphere-y. But man, so good. And a lot of great bands like this that used keyboards and synthesizers and organs to such great effect, man, and just made them funky and bassy. And SOS, I think, is one of the kings, And so, I had to pick that tune. Take Your Time, Do It Right. I mean, it's just a great pop song with a really accessible, great synthesizer in there. So take your time, do it right. Gotta add it here.
Yeah, that's such a classic, because you can listen to that song and literally there's moments where you're like, is this, this is pop. Yeah, this is soul. Yeah, this is kind of funky. Yeah, this is R&B. Like it's
exactly.
Everything. Yeah, it's disco.
Can't pin it down.
Everything. Yeah, that's one of those perfect tracks.
Shout out French Vinyl Addict and TS Foley. What's up, guys? Thanks for being here.
All right, the next one I'm going with is from a band that's been around for quite some time, and it's The Church.
Oh, yes.
And again, a lot of things that you can pick by them. And the thing I always find is really interesting too, and this is something that just kind of hit me as I was going through and pulling out stuff, was that there's so many bands and so many songs that you would label as being synth songs. But then if you actually go back and listen to them, there's not really synth, if you will, inside of them. It's mainly guitars. It's just the way it's like they're not really using synthesizers. And I think The Church is one of those bands that really does that a lot. Where just kind of from front to back, you always see them, hear them, and experience them as a synth band. But there's plenty of songs where they don't. But the song I'm going with off of this, there's actually two. I mean, the intro song, which is Fly, fantastic, like quick little 2-minute type of thing, but it's awesome. But the song I'm going with is a song called It's No Reason. And again, just kind of thinking about one that just maybe didn't get the credit or wasn't quite as big as, Under the Milky Way. That was a huge hit for them.
That's the big one,
of thing. But yeah, It's No Reason is kind of a perfect example of what I was just saying, where most of the verse and everything, it really is guitar that feels and sounds like synth. But then when the chorus kicks in, it's just, I mean, so 80s. And it's just like, again, this beautiful synth thing that comes in underneath it. And it's hard to describe. You just kind of have to go listen to it. But if you're an 80s fan and never heard that song, It's No Reason by The Church, definitely go check it out. Just a fantastic band that's been doing it for a long time. I mean, these guys had albums that came out in the early 80s. I'm not sure if late 70s, but early 80s for sure. And then well into the 2000s, they're still putting out albums.
Yeah.
I think like two years ago, they had another studio album that came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it's just like, and they haven't changed their style. It's that same, I'm not gonna say monotone, however you want to describe the vocal delivery. They just keep churning out album after album after album. You know, so another fantastic one there.
That's a cool one, dude. That's not one I would have expected. That's a really cool one to pull right there. Yeah, the Church were cool. I remember, listen, Under the Milky Way was like a massive hit when I was in high school, man, and we just hear that all the time.
All right, what do you got next?
So next up for me, a little bit of Human League. So this is Dare. And this has got, obviously, the massive hit is Don't You Want Me, a massive synth, just synth fire, great tune. But another one that is not a one-hit wonder, in my opinion. This is a fantastic album if you like this kind of stuff. The Sound of the Crowd is really cool. Darkness is really cool. Seconds is really cool. I mean, all of those could have, I don't know if they were singles, but I feel like they could have been. And yeah, Human League is just a fun, they have a male and a female singer, vocalist. And yeah, there you go. See, he's got the Human League right there, baby.
Too. Yep.
Of course, great minds think alike, But yeah, I mean, even if you just pick Don't You Want Me, I mean, it's just, it's a great tune with a great synth and very lyrical. I mean, their music is very like accessible in the sense that it's very singable. It's very kind of vocal driven, I would say. Yeah, I guess that's what I would say about as compared to like some other, well, I don't know. It's kind of like you got the new wave bands that are more like Duran Duran and that kind of thing where it's very lyrical, I would say, and singable. And then you had like The Cure and Depeche Mode. I'd say they're still lyrical, but it's almost buried in this massive like ambient noise.
Right.
Human League wasn't quite that way. I think they were much more poppy. But yeah, Human League, Don't You Want Me or Anything on here is fantastic. So very, very iconic synthesizer sound.
Yeah, and I also think it was kind of genius too to have the whole female and male lead singer, because it was kind of like the two things you were getting in the 80s was typically something that was more of a Duran Duran type, or something that was more maybe like a I don't know, like a Bow Wow Wow type. Between the male and female, and that was the stuff that was hitting. And so like almost every song you heard with them, you were getting a little taste of it both.
Absolutely.
So, I think that was kind of smart on their part.
I like how you said Bow Wow Wow. And also just to piggyback on what you said with the creativity in the guitar sound during the 80s is in your mind. I started thinking Bow Wow Wow, like, do you want to, what is it? Do You Want to Hold Me or something like that? Is that what it's called? I think it's called that. I have it here, but in your mind, you might think, oh, that's going to be what I could pick for synthesizers. But then you realize like, it's just this really heavy guitar, very, I don't know, processed guitar sound that sounds more like a synthesizer. Susie and the Banshees the same way with like the guitars on those records, which are very unusual and stuff. You might think like, oh, it's a synthesizer. Really, it's way more guitar heavy. So yeah, just to kind of piggyback on your last comment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. All right, I'm gonna go to another one here, and this is one where I'm kind of sneaking out of the 80s. I'm actually going into the early 90s with this one, and it is Annie Lennox off of her album Diva. And I'll go ahead and pull it out because I was kind of debating about which one I was going to use. I was thinking about the Eurythmics. The song "Who's That Girl" was definitely one that I thought would kind of really fit into the conversation. That was one that I should have pulled out when we were having a conversation about the whole bridge thing last week, because like the bridge in that song, "Who's That Girl," is just absolutely killer. But said I'm going to go with Annie Lennox Diva. This came out in 1992, so we had just crossed out of the 80s, but of course she was one of the the big queens of the 80s, and it's the song "Why," the opening track off of that. And again, it's just when you talk about using the synths and everything, and the synths and piano, a combination of those two to kind of create this mood, and it's such like a a soft song. It's such a heartfelt song. I mean, the thing that always gets me is like when she opens up the song, like the first lyric is like, how many times do I have to tell you that I'm sorry for the things that I've done? And
Yeah.
like, it's coming from like a very heartfelt place, but it's like as soon as you hear that one sentence starting the song, it's like, damn, we're in for like 4 or 5 minutes of heartbreak here, because she just dives right in.
Be careful talking about Annie Lennox, man. You might see your man choke up a little bit, because so good, so good.
Yeah, and just again, it's hard to describe these synth parts and all of that, but they used it to, like you said, just like create that mood, create exactly where you're going, and then Annie's lyrics just kind of confirmed, yeah, exactly where you felt you were going. You're here, and let me take you on this journey, and let me take you down this story. And I mean, just such a powerful song. I mean, it was big, but it should have been a lot bigger.
It's funny because you already got me thinking, dude, about the next one. Because that makes me think of someone that comes out of a group, right? Annie Lennox, and then goes on, has a solo career and doesn't lose anything
At all.
And maybe even, and I think another one would be like George Michael, for example, and maybe they even get better breaking out of a band, where that's not always the case, right? I mean,
Right.
A lot of times you have people are better in a band and then they break up and try to do something solo, and it's not,
Right.
They need that band to kind of to build that that greatness, whether it's the chemistry or just, bouncing ideas and stuff. She is one that is fantastic. Even on her own, she did not miss a step.
Yeah, at all.
Yeah.
At all.
That's a great one.
All right, what do you got next?
So next one for me is going to be The Sound from the Lion's Mouth. And this has got a record on it called Skeletons, or a tune on it called Skeletons, the one I'm going to single out. This is one of those sort of 80s bands that doesn't really come up a lot. Like, this isn't one I was familiar with in the 80s. I didn't really learn about The Sound until much later. And they don't get the love like in the reissues and stuff like that. And so these are kind of pricey records, and a lot of people are looking for originals of these and stuff. And it's just, it's a hidden gem in a lot of ways. This is going to be for the person that's into like the Bauhaus, The Cure, Psychedelic Furs, Susie, that kind of thing. This is just kind of their flavor of that. Or even I can't think of the name of the band. There's another one that I'm thinking of that's really close, but this is a great album. But I want to call out Skeletons, and it's really, really cool. Lyrically, has a lot of fun guitars in it, and this band has a lot of fun guitar. It's that jangly guitar sound that we associate with some 80s bands and stuff. But the synths too. So I had to shout out the synths on this one also. And just kind of a hidden gem today. So hopefully, and some people will know it. Some people will know it. I've had people ask me, hey, when are you going to sell that? Never. But if you don't know it, check it out. Because if you like some of the stuff we're talking about, I think you'd really be pleasantly surprised on this. And maybe start with Skeletons. I think that's a really cool tune off here, and kind of go from there. This is a great album with a great cover too. But yeah, Skeletons, The Sound.
Yeah, I don't think I know them, and it's funny because when you first held that up, my first thought was, oh yeah, I've seen that album somewhere before, but then I realized I haven't seen the album. That's the picture of Daniel in the lion's den from my mother's Bible.
Yes,
like, I've seen that picture before. It's not. I haven't seen the album.
Absolutely, and it's in a gatefold too, so it continues on the whole length of it. But yeah, and it's. As depictions of that, Bible story go, I mean, this has to be one of the best ones. I mean, it's just done so well.
Yeah. I have to check that out because I'm not familiar with them at all.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So where we
just give that to me.
All right. So for the next one here, let's go to one that was a pretty big hit in the 80s.
Oh.
Yaz, Upstairs Eric's. And of course, I'm going right to the song "Only You" off of this. Just another one of those. I guess you can call it is it a ballad? Sometimes it's kind of hard to say. slow synth 80s love, if you will.
If it was like R&B or something, we'd call it a slow jam, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a synth slow jam.
Yeah, synth slow jam.
but I mean, again, all of the pieces that you want in the beauty of what made the 80s the 80s. I mean, that voice where you can't quite tell, is this a female or is it a male? It's like, for some reason, when it comes to that synth part, when a voice is playing in that area, it just tends to, I don't know, it tends to work well with the synth. I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense or not, what I'm trying to say, but
yeah.
And then just the melody and the harmonies that kind of come in such a simple way. It's just one of those classic, I think you used the right word, synth slow jams. I love it to death. So just another great one that represents that all too well.
Someone in chat will probably know. I can't think of the guy's name, but that band was formed from the guy that did most of the synths on the first Depeche Mode album.
Mm-hmm.
And he went along and formed that, as I'm sure you well know.
Right.
And then synth programming was basically left to Martin Gore at that point, and who was really just the vocalist on the first album. And he talks about like, yeah, I had to, well, not just him, but I can't think of the other guy's name right now in Depeche that did a lot of the synths too. But yeah, he kind of left and formed his own band. And then that's an opposite situation that I talked about before. When somebody goes solo and then does better, it's almost as if this guy left Depeche Mode and Depeche Mode got better in some ways. Like they didn't falter, they just kept going strong and came out with some great stuff. But anyway, for people that don't know, I can't think of his name right now, but yeah.
So that's
is it Vince Clark? Yeah, perfect prescription. Vince Clark says, I think that's the guy, absolutely, and Wyoming Dave too.
All right, what do you got next?
All right, so I had a choice from a couple Cure albums, and I love the trifecta. I love 17 Seconds, Faith, and Pornography. But for me, the synths on this album take it to a whole different level. This is Pornography.
Nice.
And people might need to revisit this. It's amazing. It's got 100 years on it, which might be like the biggest hits, but it goes into a short-term effect. Oh, The Hanging Garden is probably the big one. And then Siamese Twins. But man, this is a masterpiece. I mean, this is Robert Smith in his prime. And the synths are great. They're unusual. They're unique. Sometimes something is so unusual and such a part of its sound that it just sounds inevitable. And you take it for granted. But if you go back and listen to this thing and listen to some of the stuff that's happening here, from harmonies to melodies to lyrics to just the overall, talk about an ambient record. Mm-hmm. This is 90% ambience. You're just in a whole different world on this record. Just crank it up and you can just close your eyes and you're going to be in the world of Robert Smith for 40 minutes or whatever. So this one's fantastic. Hard for me to pick one song. There's one that I'm trying to remember which one it is. It starts out very unusual. But it also has a Strange Day on it, which starts out with this humming synthesizer to kind of take you into the drums and stuff. Pornography, The Cure. I did one of my all-time favorite. This is a desert island record for me. This might be top 10 80s records for me. It's so, so good. So yeah, anything on here. But even if you wanted to start with like Hanging Garden and what was the one I just said? Strange Day. Great songs. So yeah. Had to call them out.
Yeah, there's a lot to pick by them, and that's a great one right there.
Yeah.
All right. So the next one I'm going to go with here, maybe kind of skipping down to some of the ones that, I don't know, maybe people wouldn't expect as much, but I'm going to go with Quarter Flash.
Ooh, okay.
I don't know if you remember them or not. This is their release from 1983, Take Another Picture. What's her name? Randy Ross was the lead vocalist there. And again, she had one of those like just amazing 80s type of female vocal deliveries, but it was back to the simplicity of the synthesizer within that song. And on top of that, that was actually one that incorporated the lyrics a lot as well, because it's the one that I always listen to and I can never figure out is she absolutely crazy, or is it the most like passionate love song? And I can't figure out which one it is, you know, because it's like when I think about like the lyrics, it starts off with you won't forget my eyes, deep inside you'll realize you're gonna see me everywhere you go, you're gonna hear me on your radio.
Uh-oh.
And
Fatal Attraction.
I know. And it's like, you know, there you are in my car and suddenly you hear me, but do you want me? And then like in the second verse, which I've always thought was like the coolest, she says, I'm always on your mind. I'm the chill that never left your spine. Like I'm the building where you live and breathe. I'm the sound that never lets you sleep. It's like,
dang.
It's like I want to run away and I'm totally turned on at the same time. Like, it's like, that's how you start dating someone that's psycho. That's how it happens. But
yeah, that's how most horror movies start.
But yeah, I mean, again, it's just when it comes to the, you know, the synthesizer and the way that it really lies right underneath those lyrics and the way that she's delivering it, like one doesn't overpower the other, and it's just I'm probably gonna keep saying this over and over. It sets that mood again. It works perfect with the lyrics and her vocal delivery. So yeah, Take Me to Heart. I'm gonna go with that as one of my picks.
So I was sitting here trying to think of how do I know Quarter Flash? And they do that song Harden My Heart, right? That's kind of the big one.
That was one of theirs. Mm-hmm.
And it also says that they formed in Portland, Oregon, right in my neck of the woods. So
nice. Cool. Didn't know that.
Yeah, that's a good one, dude. Again, kind of a deeper cut. Like, I mean, back in the day, you heard about Quarter Flash all the time, but I don't know if there's someone that's comes up, you know, currently. So I love that you're bringing that one up.
Yeah. I mean, that one was such a good one. I remember I was in the store, it's like maybe last year, and this guy came in, and sometimes he comes in and flips through the dollar bins, and he may spend, you know, $4 or $5. He didn't have a lot of money to spend on records or whatever. And this one happened to be sitting on the counter, and we started talking about it, and I was telling him about it. He was like, yeah, that one's $6. I might have to pass on that one. I'm like, no, dude, you're taking this home. And I was like, I'm going to pay the $6 for you. You have to have this record.
Oh, that's cool.
so yeah, that's one that's an awesome one. Everyone should have.
That's cool, man. Every time we do one of these, my shopping cart in Discogs gets longer and longer. It's like, oh man.
I hear you.
What do you got? I got to give my guy some love. We got Prince, 1999. 1999 alone. You want to do Little Red Corvette? Take your pick. I'm gonna go with 1999. Synths, augmented vocals, you know, heavy use of filters and different stuff. A use of synths in a very sort of buried. I say buried. What do I want to say here? It's not front and center. You know, you hear the guitar and his drum machine, right? The Linn drum that Prince is so famous for. The drum programming, guitars, stuff like that. But there's a use of synths. Oftentimes it's sort of in the mix and you got to kind of listen for it. But yeah, 1999. In other words, this isn't going to be Human League or Depeche Mode, but there's still a great use of electronic instruments and stuff going on with Prince. I mean, 1999, just start right there, man. It's funny when this song came out, it was, for me at least, with the age that I was, you'd start counting the years until how old are you going to be when it turns 2000, you know?
Right.
Like, oh man, I'm going to be ancient in the year 2000, you know, and stuff like that. So, and you know, people, it just kind of put it into the zeitgeist. 1999 is coming. Now it's a long time ago, but when it was in the future, it was kind of fun, man. And listen to this. And then of course on midnight, you know, New Year's Eve before the year 2000, how many times did you play this song? Right. Or going into 1999. So yeah, I got to give the synths on here some love. 1999 is a great one. The track 1999 up here. Prince, the genius. I mean, what can you say?
Yep. Yeah, you nailed it when you first started talking about it, when you're saying how it was hidden, because as soon as you pulled it up, the first thing I thought was, oh yeah, I guess there is synth inside of there.
Yeah.
Because like it's clearly there, but like you said, it is hidden in the perfection of the music. You don't realize it.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
So clearly,
it's
right
more
there.
like you were talking about, like it's more of a R&B. I mean, he's using it in a way that's not like a lot of 80s bands did, but it's still there. Like even in Michael Jackson Thriller, like there's synthesizers all over that. But it's just that it's more like I hate to use the word hidden. It's just used more traditionally, I guess, that it's easy to forget it's there. So
yeah. All right, my next one here, which probably should have been one of the first ones to pull out. When you start talking about synthesizers, how can you not talk about this band?
Ooh, yes.
The Flock.
Great album.
The Flock of Seagulls. Yeah, they're released from 1982. You know, of course, they had the gigantic hit, you know, Iran, but I'm going with the song Space Age Love Song. There honestly is nothing more 80s than Space Age Love Song in every facet. And the thing I've always found so interesting about that song is, you know how when you listen to a lot of music and it takes you back, like, you know, you start reminiscing and it makes you kind of happy and that type of thing.
Yeah.
Space Age Love Song actually almost does the opposite, in the sense that it goes so far back and defines the 80s. It's the one song that makes me feel old today. It's so 80s. I feel so disconnected with that time period.
Really?
Yeah, because I know it's really hard to describe. Like, it's not taking me back. It's like literally like showing it to me right in front of my face and making me realize I'm not in the 80s anymore.
Well,
does that make any sense at all? I don't know.
No, I hear you.
But yeah, it's just and what was that movie that it was in? Where like the guy and the girl were, or maybe I don't know if it's maybe the way the video stuff. I think it was part of a movie where they were like in a shopping mall or something after close, and they were kind of playing around. They were on skates and all kinds of a really famous.
Was that Mannequin? Was that Mannequin?
No, it wasn't that. It
what
was.
What movie is that?
I have to go look it up again. But there's like the video. If you pull it up to look at it here on YouTube, that's like the scenes that they're showing when that song is playing. And like I said, it's just it's so 80s that it's beyond defining. And I just it's the perfect song to define that time period.
Was it Career Opportunities? Is that what you're
that
I don't know. It
might have been, yeah, maybe.
Okay. I haven't seen that. I mean, Space Age Love Song is way better than Iran. I know Iran became the big hit and all that stuff, and it's very catchy. Space Age Love Song is you nailed it, dude. That is one of the great 80s tunes, man. Yes. And again, it's a sensitive tune, but it, you know, not in a gushy kind of way. But that's just a great one. That's a great one. All right.
It's just that song you expect to pop up in. It's just that song you expect to pop up in every 80s movie.
Yeah,
teens
exactly.
are being teens. Oh,
exactly.
So
exactly. It needs to be in like every John Hughes film.
Right.
So I'm gonna pick. We're gonna go. I got some rock. I've tried to mix it up a little bit. So I've already shown a little bit of electro funk, maybe. Now I'm gonna go into the kind of the rock realm, and we got some Rush here. And this is gonna be off the record Signals. And the one I want to call out is called Subdivisions. And it's probably the hit off of this record, I guess. But man, you know, it's Geddy Lee who played bass. I'm pretty sure he also did the synthesizers for them for the most part. And in fact, plays live, right? He plays a bass solo, walks over to the keyboard, plays a synthesizer solo, goes back to bass. It's like crazy.
While singing lead vocals.
While singing lead vocals. Right. Yeah, exactly. Not to forget. Yeah, he's singing lead vocals too, man. Rush. A lot of great Rush. And, you know, as they got more into the, you know, the 80s and stuff, there's a lot more synth stuff in there. I think this is probably, I don't know what year this is, 82 or 3 or something. But yeah, Subdivisions off of here. I think it's a great tune and got some great synths on it. But there's a lot of stuff, man. I know Rush is not an underrated band, but they're one of those bands that you either love them or you hate them, I guess, because a lot of people are like, Rush. I'm like, how could you not like Rush, man? You get everything. Fantastic drums, amazing guitar licks and solos, great songwriting, fantastic bass, synthesis. dude, it's Rush, folks. Come on. So Subdivisions, I had to give that one some love.
Great pick. Yeah, that was one that I thought about pulling out too. I mean, that's a great one. And that's one of those weird songs too. And for the longest time, I couldn't explain it. That song creeps me out.
Oh, really?
It always gave me a feeling of like uncomfortableness or fear for some reason.
Yeah, the topic, it's very, the topics are not fun to imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. And I couldn't figure out why for the longest time until I saw that movie about those Australian serial killers, like one of the first serial killers they had out there. And it was a movie that was kind of shot, it wasn't quite color, it wasn't quite black and white, but there was all this dark stuff going on. And it was like Subdivision was the perfect theme song to the entire mood of that movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's why that song freaking creeps me out so much.
Yeah, it's a lot of I just kind of just like some of the lyrics: sprawling on the fringes of the city in geometric order, an insulated border in between the bright lights and the far unlit unknown, growing up in it all, so one-sided, opinions all provided, the future pre-decided, detached and subdivided, and it just kind of like starts to take you down this like road, and it's kind of like
yeah. That's such a great track.
Yeah.
All right, so
by the way, thanks for all the comments, guys. A Flock of Seagulls. I saw a Flock of Seagulls a couple years ago. That's really cool.
Nice.
AA said, is Brandon thinking of the trailer for the game Grand Theft Auto Vice City by chance?
With Space Age Love Song?
Yeah, I'm not sure which tune that was. But yeah, man, how much great music is in those games, man? There's a lot of great stuff in there.
But you were right. It was Career Opportunities. That was the movie that, yeah. All right, ready for the next one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Just dive right into it. Real Life. You remember them?
No,
I know you do. I'm going to test you first.
I don't.
Well, do you remember the movie Rad?
Dude, okay. No. Okay. I need to see Rad because it's the exact kind of movie I would have loved as a kid, but I was really more into skateboarding.
Okay.
But Rad, dude, I have to see that because I keep seeing clips from it and I'm like, it's like it was made for me. I have to see this.
Yeah, so like the overall, like, I'm not gonna say the theme song, but like the big song that came out of that was the song "Send Me an Angel."
Okay,
that was kind of big, and that was by Real Life.
Okay,
off the album Heartland. But yeah, I mean, anyone who's seen that movie, anyone that kind of grew up in the whole BMX world and stuff like that, I mean, you couldn't, after that movie came out, you could not put a foot on a pedal without thinking about the song "Send Me an Angel." Like, it just automatically pops in your head every single time. And just a perfect synth track right there.
That's so awesome, dude. Yeah, Perfect Prescription got it. Yep, Send Me an Angel, Australian synth essential.
Mm-hmm.
I would have never. Yeah, it's funny. You can hear a song a million times, and sometimes you just never, you don't know who performed it. So yeah, now I know. All right, so 80s synth. Let's get into some. Again, it's time, Brandon, to put on the parachute pants, break out the white gloves, drag a piece of cardboard out to the driveway, and call your friends because we're going to get down to some Midnight Star, baby. No parking on the dance floor. Freakazoid. Take out your vocoder box. Freakazoid robots, please report to the dance floor. And yes,
my gosh, yes.
Just all electronic, great synths. And again, talk about nostalgic. I mean, it was just a place in time, a point in time. If you know, but I don't know how you describe it. I mean, this is electro funk. This is what we would listen to, this kind of thing in the 80s when we wanted to get down, when it was time to call somebody out. It's like, hey, we're going to settle this with some breakdancing now, man. So, but yeah, Midnight Star, love it. I think I've said this 100 times, but I had the 7-inch of Freakazoid, would go to my friend's house and play it. Absolutely love it. Was singing this in class and everything. And Midnight Star, man. Who knew? Who knew that they were going to be, a piece of me 40 years later, and stuff. It's kind of wild, but great synthesizers. Again, this is, I would call it electro funk or dance music, kind of stuff. So, but it's fantastic. Just fantastic.
Such great stuff. Such great stuff. All right, the next one I pulled out is one that actually I wouldn't necessarily say it goes to the top of my list, but I pulled it because it made me think this is one that I don't think gets the credit for being the synth pop hit that it was.
Ooh, okay.
And it's the song Betty Davis Eyes by Kim Carnes.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, like we probably all think about that as like a pop, like an 80s pop, which I guess it is. But when you really get down and listen to it, that song is synth from front to back. There's not a bunch of guitars and all that kind of stuff playing around with it. It's total synth. Yeah. And so I mean, obviously it doesn't get packed into the new wave category and all of that, but it's as synth as anything out there. So that's one that I thought could use a little love in this conversation.
That's a good one. That kind of makes me think about, and I'm not saying that's the case here, but it just makes me think about where I wonder how much synthesizers were used. We know, people are going to maybe know deeper than this, but from what I know, synthesizers became more affordable and drum machines became more affordable. Hip hop, people that didn't have a lot of money, can't build a whole band, they could go get a turntable and a drum machine and start making music. And synthesizers became cheaper and cheaper too. Is that oftentimes, if you listen to some popular music, it's not a lot going on in the background. It's not known for it's amazing, like a Rush, which I would qualify as just being a fantastic band. And sometimes music was just made on a keyboard and then you sing over it, and the next thing you know, you got a hit. I wonder if that's one of those tunes where, it's like, let's just write this on a synthesizer and a drum machine. It'd be way faster and cheaper. I'm sure it happened. I don't know if that's an example of it, but
yeah. Well, man, I think the more people started using them and starting to understand how to use them, that is one thing that happened is the synth with just even playing one or two notes could fill up more space than just one note with maybe a guitar or something like that. And so I think it kind of simplified, and at the same time, it was filling up the same amount of space that three guitars were, kind of prior to that.
That's a great point. You did so many sound options. You could pretty much make it sound like a band just by playing.
Right. Like somebody could take four fingers and make it sound like three different people were playing instruments at the same time.
Exactly. So, all right, next one for me. We're gonna go into what I would classify as a little R&B, a little soul, a little funk. And we got the trio of the Pointer Sisters right here. Breakout, just jam-packed with great stuff. And I don't care if you want to pick Jump, and I'm So Excited, massive hits at the time, or do you want to go Automatic and Neutron Dance, which I would do. Just phenomenal, funky tunes and great synths. I mean, I'm trying to think of one right now. I don't want to sing it. I did too much singing last week. But a lot of the tracks will start out with a little synth thing, and you're going to be swinging back and forth just like they did on Soul Train. And I mean, just great stuff. This is an underrated album. $5, pick this thing up and just have a great 80s record right there. I mean, I said it already. I mean, Jump, Automatic, I'm So Excited, Neutron Dance, that's just one side. I mean, this thing's phenomenal. And some really fun use of synthesizers on here. This is just a fun record, man. Singable, groovy. And I got to shout out Pointer Sisters, man. So there you go. Some really nice synths on there, for an R&B band. So really, really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, those three ladies are so underrated because I mean they had so many albums that had so much great stuff on it. That they were big, but again, I think they're ones that maybe still did not quite get the credit they should have gotten for the length of their career and what they did over their career.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
All right, next up, let's go with this one. How about a little General Public?
Dude, man, you are killing it today. Yes.
Little general public. And of course, the song I'm going with off of this is Tenderness. I mean, I remember the first time hearing that song because, Weird Science became one of my absolute favorite movies from the moment that it came out. First time I saw it on HBO, just fell in love with it. And I remember hearing that song, of course, in the part where Gary goes to drop off what's her name, and it's kind of playing in the background underneath their dialogue. And like I said, it really was kind of underneath in the background. It's the scene is the dialogue. It's not the music in carrying the scene, but it was just something that I heard underneath that. And I'm just like, I can't understand what they're saying, but I'm hearing the melody, I'm hearing the groove, and it's just sticking with me. And I love it. And yeah, I mean, it's still to this day, I feel just as excited and enjoy it just as much when I play it, because it's another one that just totally defines that awesome feeling of the 80s.
Yep.
And so,
you said tenderness, right? I think I spaced out for a second.
Yeah, it's tenderness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, and again, I'm sorry, I don't mean to but it's like, just so people know, we're talking about the two guys, Dave Wakeling and Ranking Roger, out of the English Beat, right?
Right. Yep.
And if you want more of that stuff, guys, all you got to do is buy the 3 English Beat albums, because I love English Beat. I love Rankin Roger, and I got to see the English Beat last year. Of course, Rankin Roger no longer with us, but Dave Wakeling's still there. So exciting, man. And Tenderness is like the greatest song that English Beat never did. It didn't end up on the English Beat record, right? They just kind of went off and did their own thing. But man, it's such a great tune.
So good. Just so 80s. Oh my gosh.
That's a great one, man. All right. Another one that I would say is so 80s, but in a different way, is going to be the Daz Band's Joystick. Man, dude, this another one of those tunes that just takes me back to my childhood. These all do. I mean, everything here is going to take me to some point in my childhood, And again, with that kind of like vocoder, which was popular during that time, Joystick, but it's got some really fun beats, really fun melodies to it. It's an upbeat tune. It's just fun. The thing about this song too, that's really fun about it, is that it's very much a part of its time. So if you think about, Pac-Man Fever, for example, a song that came out in the early 80s, is like as locked into a period as you can be, right? It has sound effects from the Pac-Man arcade game. It's like, it's almost too attached to its time. And this rides that line, right? You're talking about joystick, of course, a double entendre of a joystick. You guys know what I'm saying? But yeah, so in fact, kind of she's got a good grip on it right there. But anyway, Daz Band Joystick, man. This is funky and groovy and very nostalgic. If you were there, it's going to make you feel right at home. So love this one, man. It just really came out on the Motown label, and it's got some fun stuff, but particularly that song Joystick that just hits me right here, man, from back in the day.
Yeah. Nice. I remember that song, but I don't have that on vinyl. I need to get that.
Yeah, it's a good one.
All right, my next pick here, I think, is one where literally I don't need to say anything about it. I could probably just hold it up, and everybody knows how that fits into the 80s. I mean, Forever Young by Alphaville. I mean, another one of those just absolute defining songs from that time period. Just stumbling on my words, I'm going to say like 5 things at one time. Just grabbing all the different pieces of what made the 80s just so amazing, between like the UK-ish kind of vocals, if you will. That's what I always describe that vocal style, no matter where a person's from. And then just I don't know. Again, I guess I can't really describe more about it. It's Forever Young by Alphaville.
It's a great one, man. That's a great one. Yeah. It's almost kind of anthem-y. It's in a way. Right. Yeah, it's kind of that, where you kind of walk around the house for the rest of the day singing Forever Young. Yeah, it's like, it's a great one. Perfect description. Of course, The Beat, if you're not in the US, of course, you know the English Beat as The Beat, not the English Beat. Only song that Wyoming Dave knows by Daz Band was Let It Whip. That's right. Yeah, Let It Whip, another great one. Big in Japan, also great by Alphaville. Yeah. Great stuff, man. All right, next one for me. This is another desert island record for me. This might be top 10 80s records for me because it's so fun. I love, you know what, man, when no one's here, I crank it up. You know, the little space I have here, I'll tap my toe and sing at the top of my lungs. And this is a record that I've been listening to since it came out, and it has awesome synths on it. And it's the B-52's Whammy.
Nice.
And for me, this is an album. Like, this just goes, you know, side 2 is Trism, Queen of Las Vegas. Those are 2 just awesome, awesome tracks. Side 1, Legal Tender. I think that was the big hit with fantastic synths. I mean, that one just has awesome synths. Whammy Kiss, Song for a Future Generation, Butterbean. I mean, you know, some of it's kind of, you know, goofy. Butterbean's one. Big Bird is kind of goofy, but everything else is seriously great. Like, really, really great. And Legal Tender is probably the first song I heard. It made me buy the album back in high school and just fall in love with this stuff. And the synths are, the B-52s have great synths.
Yep.
Something about the B-52s that it gives you that kind of go-go girl vibe, right? Obviously, they kind of dress that way, the big wigs, the bouffant hairdos and stuff, but that's really kind of infused in the music. You can hear it.
Yep.
With the drum beats and the guitars and the singing, the vocals, just one of the greatest vocal bands of all time, man. Kate and Cindy slaying out every track. Musical vocals. You know, I could go on about B-52s forever, but their vocals are really a complementary instrument. It's it makes the melody better. You know, their vocals do. Mm-hmm. And the synths are just great. So yeah, I could go on forever. Take your pick on the B-52s, but this is the one, man. This is the one that's coming with me when I have to go to that deserted island. Whammy, just fantastic.
I haven't spun that one in a while. I got to give that one a refresher. All right. So next here. Well, real quick, the story of how I discovered this album. I went to college my freshman year, right? And I was living in the dorms. So there was free hours from 5 to 7. You could be as loud as you wanted to be in the dorms. So you could blast your music or whatever from 5 to 7. So my suite mates, which happened to be these soccer players, it's like the first or second week I'm at school, they're blasting this music and I'm hearing this song and I'm like, oh my God, what is this? Because all I've had up to this point in time outside of my 80s new wave and pop stuff is basically hip hop and glam. Like that's my whole world at that time.
Okay. And
so I go next door and I'm like, dude, what is that you're playing? He's like, it's this band called New Order.
Oh.
And it was the song Bizarre Love Triangle is what he was playing. And it just totally floored me. You know, because especially back then when you don't have the internet and all that type of stuff, it's like you basically kind of hear what you hear from your friends in your neighborhood, maybe on MTV. You're not exposed to a ton of different stuff. And I had never heard anything by New Order. And man, he told me that and I about lost my mind. I was like, that is the coolest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. And just became an instant fan that day.
Such a great one.
Yeah, and of course we know how the synths just dominate that song from start to finish, along with the amazing vocals and lyrics and everything else. But you know, so many to pick by them. I wanted to kind of pick No Regrets. That's also one that I really love. Yeah. And then Age of Consent is also another fantastic one. But I just kind of thought, hey, it was Bizarre Love Triangle that brought me to them. So let me just give that props right off the bat. But yeah,
it is hard to find.
I'll never forget that day, man. That was just like,
yeah, just mind altering.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to find a bad track on there. I mean, I had the cassette tape back in the day. Again, I talked about it before. My girlfriend lent me 2 long cassette tapes. They're both double LPs. One was that, and the other one was the Smiths. I can't think of what it's called right now, but the double LP compilation. And I just wore those things out, man. They're just so good.
Yeah. Do you have that on vinyl?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's like the one rare kind of wall record that I purchased because I'm more of a bin guy. Mm-hmm. But I saw that on the wall at my local and I was like, man. And the thing it was a great price. It was like $70 or something. Mm-hmm. And you know, those things, an OG UK.
Yeah.
And so I was like kind of going back and forth. And I'm like, I actually went to my car And I sat there for a minute and I got back up. I went, I said, just take my $70, man. I got to have it. And it was one of the best purchases I've made, man.
Well, dude, I was thinking right there, if you said no, you didn't have it, I was like, okay, he's getting a gift next week because I have 2 OG pressings and the reissue. And I was like,
Oh,
I don't
really?
need 2. Yes, I was just thinking I'm going to
cool.
send him one if he doesn't have it.
I appreciate you, man. Yeah, I got that one. I got that one on lock, fortunately.
Nice. Right, what do you got next?
I didn't pick 2 records by a lot of people, but I did have to do one here. And again, I'm kind of going chronological, so things are kind of jumping around. Well, we got SOS Band again, and this time it's Just Be Good to Me.
Mm-hmm.
And man, dude, I mean, again, it's hard to talk about some of these bands without getting kind of away from the synth, because there's just so much greatness about a lot of these bands. SOS Band is one of them. The lyrics, of course, the vocals are so fantastic. But Just Be Good to Me, love it. Great synths on it. It's slow, groovy, just kind of like get you in that, like, I don't know. I mean, it's a slow jam, I guess, for the most part, right? And another one of those tunes, like you're talking about the lyrical content of the one you were talking about before, where Just Be Good to Me is kind of the opposite of someone. Well, okay, if you think of the other one being like a Fatal Attraction, this one's more like, you can do anything you want when you're not with me. You want to be with other girls, do your thing or whatever. Just be good to me. Come back to me. Whatever you got to do. I don't care about the other ladies. Just be good to me. So yeah, a great tune. I mean, SOS, dude, they're at the top of my list for this kind of stuff. They were the greatest. Yeah. So yeah, Just Be Good to Me. Fantastic track. Great synthesizer, bass line and stuff on that one.
Yeah. And like we were talking about earlier, they can have so many different styles mixed into what they do. Yeah. It's like, even if you really think about that intro, that's like an intro to a rock song, like right. a Europe or something like that. Like it's not an intro you expect from an R&B band on an album.
That's a good point. Yep, yeah, absolutely.
They were geniuses.
Yep.
All right. The next one here is, it's so weird because every time I pull one out, as opposed to talking about the synth stuff, I want to tell the story behind the song.
I know. Me too.
It's just taking me right back. But ABC, How to Be a Zillionaire. And of course, the song is Be Near Me. Love that. So love that song.
That's another one that just tugs at your heartstrings. It's so beautiful. I love that track.
Yes. And underneath it too, I've always found, like, if I'm driving in the car and it comes on and I'm blasting it or whatever else, it's like if I start dancing and moving to it, I'm doing it in some type of funkiness or groove that I'm catching in it, not just like a regular new wave type of pop song, but underneath, underneath there's something really funky and kind of groovy inside of it. But I remember, again, long before I could afford to go out and just buy albums, and I just recorded stuff off the radio and everything else. When that song first came big, I was always waiting for it and hoping for it on the radio. Yeah. And those punks used to always say, coming up next, ABC News at, and every time they say ABC, I'm thinking ABC is coming, and then it was like ABC News Report. And
I thought you were going to say ABC, shoot that poison arrow for the 1000th time.
No, it was always that freaking news report, and it would just like break my heart a little bit every single time I heard it, even though they've done it to me 50 times already. Yeah. Every time I hear that song, it makes me think about being like a little crack addict sitting at the radio with the record button.
With your finger over the record button so you can
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
That's
a great song, dude. Really nice pick there. So we'll go back into the rock world. I got a couple of rockers here. This is one that's going to be very unusual for this band. And it's one that's going to be, I don't know, maybe even controversial for this band. But it's got a great synth line on it. And I got to remember the tune here because I'm spacing out on what the title is. So Rainbow in the Dark by Dio. And I love Dio. I love them for, their rocking music. And they did almost a pop song called Rainbow in the Dark. And it's on here, but you can't deny the synthesizers on here, man. They're very catchy. And it's a great song. Like, it would have been a great song by someone else because it just doesn't feel like Dio, at least to my way of thinking. I only have a couple Dio records, but but yeah, so yes, the Rainbow in the Dark. I really like that song. And before and Dio, I've said it before, I wasn't a rocker when I was younger. So I'm kind of going back and vibing on that stuff now. And some of it's nostalgia just from the sense of like my friends would play it when I'd go over their house, or you'd see it on MTV or hear it on the radio, but I never like would buy the records or anything. So it's really fun recollecting it. And then as I'm playing this thing and Rainbow in the Dark comes on, I was like, what? That's Dio. But anyway, still a cool tune and monster synthesizers on that song. So yeah, I had to shout it out, give it some love, if for no other reason, just to kind of throw a curveball a little bit. So yeah, Rainbow in the Dark.
That is a good one because, he could have recorded that with the synthesizers being a little bit lower in the background, but just the fact that they were willing to put them that out front.
Yeah.
And Dio didn't care. He's like, hey, let's do it.
Yep.
He's like, screw it. I'm going to sing the hell out of this thing.
Yep.
Totally did. All right. Next one here, again, is a band that must be mentioned in this particular conversation.
Ooh.
Pet Shop Boys. And they have a ton of them, but I think the one that exemplifies this the most is going to be West End Girls.
It's a great one.
Yeah, again, absolute classic, awesome mood setting, and just another one of those new wave synth pop songs or whatever else that to me just has a really soulful, groovy background to it. That there's something underneath I hear that is just kind of funky. It's very kind of almost like SOS bandy that we were talking about before. So yeah, that's definitely one I have to put on the list there as well. And again, there's so many you could choose by them just off of their first 2 or 3 albums.
Sorry, I gotta mute myself. The dog starts barking. I don't want to irritate everybody. Sorry, I got the dog here. She hears something at the door and she loses it. So my apologies, guys. Pet Shop Boys, that's a great one, man. That's a fantastic, and that's such a great song, dude.
Yeah.
Great record. Sorry, cool. Guys.
It's not that loud anyway. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Again, I'm gonna stay in the world of rock here, and if you're even, no matter how casual of an 80s person you are, you've heard this song, maybe you hate it, maybe you love it, but you cannot deny the synthesizers of Van Halen's Jump.
Yeah.
I mean, just kicks right into those heavy synths. Eddie, who knew Eddie could be so great at writing synthesizer parts, including being such a great lead guitar player. But I'm sorry, I hope that's not that annoying.
No, it's fine.
But yeah, this is a great album. And I know they get criticized. Again, diehards tend to like that early stuff. They want to hear the rock. They want to hear, guitar, bass, and drums. And of course, that's fantastic. I love Van Halen. I know Brandon loves Van Halen. But I'm good with them coming in with the synthesizers. I thought they did a very respectable job with it, if not even better than that. Yeah, it's not that, I don't know. I don't even want to say it's not that rock because it is. I just think it adds to it. I think it's great. So yeah, and you can say like Dio doing Rainbow in the Dark, like they really introduce synthesizers in a lot of their music and their later stuff, and I think it's all phenomenal. So anyway, Jump is the big one. It almost kind of jumps into synthesizer land for Van Halen, but just a great one, man. I love that one.
Yeah, I mean, I would say almost like the reason that it worked is like on that one, it was clear, like they weren't trying to jump on the synthesizer thing that had become so big, or that was becoming big. They were serving the song. Yeah, like the song called for that in that spot, so it worked, and it sounded, again, I didn't think, I mean, it was great. It's just one more great Van Halen album, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I call that record to me is the greatest rock album to come out of the 80s. Everyone has their favorites, but man, it is wall to wall heat. Yep. I just love that one. Nice hype, says Music in the House. Yeah, I went through a few different copies, and when this hype showed up, I got rid of the other ones because it's so fun having that Jump hype sticker on there. So I had to do it. I had to do it.
That's cool.
All right, what you got?
All right, next one here. I tried to stay away from soundtracks because I knew there was going to be a ton in there. So I only pulled 2 soundtracks, and I'll just show one here, which is going to be off of the Just One of the Guys soundtrack.
Nice.
Again, one of my absolute favorite movies from like 85, 86 when this came out. And it's the song Tonight You're Mine by Ronnie Spector. I don't know if you remember that one or not, but it's a song that, I mean, it played a couple times in the movie, and it's a song that played over the credits. But yeah, it was kind of, you know, Ronnie, of course, everyone still knew her from the Ronettes and Be My Baby and all of that. And some people don't recognize that she had some pretty strong stuff still going on in the 80s. I mean, of course, she was the one that sang background on Take Me Home Tonight with Eddie Money. Like, that was her in the background saying Be My Little Baby and all of that. But,
really?
Yeah, that was her. But there was some other stuff that she was doing, and this is kind of a perfect example. It's just, again, another one of those just fantastic 80s love songs. And it was kind of cool because as well as the synth was used, it was still more of a pop love song than kind of a new wavy love song. And I think that worked better with her vocal delivery in general. But if you don't recall the song, maybe don't recall it from the movie or whatever, I mean, definitely check it out because it is one of my absolute favorites.
I'm gonna have to check that out, dude.
Yeah, great movie, great soundtrack.
Yeah, we talked about that before. There was a remake of that movie with I don't remember her name again. I don't want to look it up again. I had to look it up last time, but yeah, they did it where it's like soccer though instead of football. It came out in around 2000 or early 2000s. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one, man. I gotta familiarize myself with that song. All right, next one for me is gonna be a band that I never had the records or anything, but always loved this tune. And when I, started kind of building a collection again, I had to snag it. And this one is Scritti Politti, Cupid and Psych 85. And they do the song Absolute. And there's 2 really good ones on here, Absolute, and then what's the other one called? Perfect Way. And if you don't know, if you've heard them, I'm sure it'll, or if you listen to it, it'll probably jog your memory. But 2 great pop songs with some fantastic synths, great music, really fun vocals. Again, these are going to be fun, easy listening pop 80s tunes. Really fun. So, Scritti Politti, yeah. I mean, Absolute is kind of the one. It's the beats are very like synthesizer heavy, and again, it kind of goes into that ambience that it brings. More of a vocal group, I guess I would say, but the synthesizers are very, very fun. So Scritti Politti, yeah, check out Absolute or The Perfect Way, man. Both great tunes.
Nice. All right, how about a little bump. Bum, bum, bum.
And Emotion, yeah.
Emotion, Obsession.
Yeah. That's a great one.
Yeah, again, another one that just found one little simple synth groove, and they like, hey, let's just go ahead and ride this as a one-hit wonder. Why not? But yeah, I think it's another one of those defining synth songs. And it's kind of weird too because, like, I'm noticing, like, when you did the SOS band, Just Be Good to Me, we talked about that intro with the synth there, and then also the intro to Animation. I don't know about you, but when I used to watch wrestling, like, before wrestling got really big with it, those were the 2 intros that I would hear to those wrestling events all the time, was that intro to SOS band and Emotion.
I don't remember that, although I was way into like the first WWF iteration with, I could name half of the guys, right? Hogan and Ultimate Hero and, all those guys. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Actually, even before then, like this is the time where if you want to go see
Ultimate Warrior. What am I saying? Yeah,
I remember Ultimate Warrior. But this is like back in the days, like when I lived in North Carolina, and I'm maybe like 4 or 5 years old at this time, maybe 6.
Oh, you're talking, okay.
I'm talking like a long time ago, because we would write in for tickets and they would send you free tickets for that next week's. So maybe we were seeing guys like Ric Flair and Andre the Giant and stuff like that, but it was long before it was profitable or big, and they were letting you come see it for free just to get people in the door, kind of thing.
Yep. Did you
But
have like the figures too, the action figure, the wrestling guys?
my younger brother got into when the whole WWF thing got big and those figures came out. He really got into it. Still has a ton of them to this day.
Oh, really?
But,
That's cool.
Yeah, but yeah, I always remember those two songs being one of the intros that they played. And it's just one of those memories again.
Nice. Shout out Vinyl Dreamscape. What's up? What's up? Yeah, I was into, yeah, I guess I was more into it as a kid. They even did an animated cartoon of it on like Saturday. It was either Saturday mornings or afternoon or whatever. It was, I don't know if it was a Hulk Hogan show or whatever it was, but yeah, man, it would have all those guys and Rowdy Roddy and all those guys. That's so
it got so big for a while, man. It was freaking huge.
Macho Man. All right. I brought this one up before, man, but it's too good to leave out here. And let me just make sure I lock down the song I want to talk about. Yeah, so Head Over Heels, Tears for Fears. The album is Songs from the Big Chair, and it just starts out where all you have to hear is the first note. It's dun 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 dun, and it's an anthem. It's beautiful. A lot of great stuff on here with great synthesizers. Shout, Everybody Wants to Rule the World. I mean, there were some great singles on here, but the one that over the years that I think is, I'm not saying Shout was bigger, obviously. Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Those were probably the two massive ones. Head Over Heels maybe was the third like level single on it, but it's my favorite. I just think Head Over Heels is such a great song with great synths from the very first note. Such a great use of last week we talked about a lot of different moments in songs, and one of them was the intro. Tears for Fears had intros on lockdown, man. All you got to hear is the first note and what song it is. And they had that, you weren't changing the dial. It was one of those where it would just capture you immediately. So yeah, I got to give Head Over Heels some love because it's such a fantastic song with a great synthesizer sound. This is a masterpiece of a record. And too bad that they broke up. This is one of those bands where I was talking about before, where people like Annie Lennox and George Michael went on their own and became better. Maybe not so much here. They really needed to be together. And I guess they're back in touring now after a long time of being apart. And, so yeah, good to see you, man. Tears for Fears.
Nice. All right. Here's one I think kind of gets forgotten about, but definitely played the synth card really hard. Rockwell, Somebody's Watching Me.
With MJ.
With MJ. Synth, up and down. And it's so funny because as big as that song was, it wouldn't have been without MJ.
Right.
Which is just like you could have a dude come in and sing 7 words and you have a hit. He gave you 7 words.
It's kind of cheesy until Michael comes in. Let's be honest, and the lyrics and stuff.
But and it's kind of a shame. I want to get off on a Michael Jackson talk, but it's like MJ showed his ability to do that so many times, where a song was completely mediocre. He would come in and do one piece or one little verse, and all of a sudden you heard the greatness inside of it.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's something like I said, Somebody's Watching Me, or Tell Me I'm Not Dreaming by Jermaine Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing. Absolutely average song on the first verse. Mike comes in on the second verse, and it's just like torture by the Jacksons. Same thing. First verse, the most mediocre thing you heard. Mike comes in on the second verse. It's just amazing.
There's very few people that could kind of not get overshadowed by MJ, right? So Paul McCartney maybe is one, with the stuff they did on Thriller, maybe. And then State of Shock with Mick Jagger, maybe you got to be kind of a Rolling Stones head to get into it. But, Mick you can tell they were having to work hard to try to keep up, because MJ is going to do his thing. It's almost embarrassing sometimes. And you almost feel like he steals the show, and it's kind of like, all right, look, either I'm going to let you take the vocals, Jermaine, or I'm going to destroy you. I mean, which one do you want?
It's crazy, man. All you had to do is just get him on your album, and you knew you had a hit.
Exactly.
It's insane.
Vinyl Dreamscapes shouting out the first Tears for Fears album. Another great one. Yeah, Tears for Fears, man. A lot of great stuff that, and maybe the average person doesn't really know, but yeah, there's some great stuff.
Yeah.
That's a great one, dude. That's so cool that you brought that up, man. Who you're right. Who would remember Rockwell if it wasn't for MJ? All right, so get into some more electro funk music here.
Bring it.
And maybe the king of them all. We got Zapp and Roger. This is the greatest hits. Take your pick, but let's talk about more bounce to the ounce. I mean, man, as funky as it gets. I mean, dare I say it? I mean, just dang, man. Just the groovy, you know, there might be some controversy, you know, if hardcore synthesizer people show up to watch this video, they might be like, yeah, you're talking about basically an organ or a keyboard or whatever. Technically, is there a big synthesizer sound or whatever? I don't care. I just think that, you know, you're playing a keyboard with a very, very specific kind of tone to it, and they vibe out with it, man. And it's so good. But this has a lot of great stuff on it. Computer Love would be another one. Talk about a slow jam, much slower kind of tempo. That is the vibe and the jam. So whichever hit you want to pick off this, go for it. But man, dude, the synths are so great. They just killer keyboard, tone, melody, all of it. Enough said. Mic drop. I mean, Zapp.
Ooh, yeah, don't even get me started on that. That's yeah, that's a banger and a half.
Yeah.
Let's see. How about a little Erasure?
There we go.
Remember them?
We're actually doing a pretty good job of not picking the same thing, dude. And
I know.
That's crazy.
But yeah, again, they had a ton of great stuff, you know, from like off of their next album. They had a song called Always, which is fantastic. Chains of Love is on here, but I'm going with the song A Little Respect.
Yeah,
that's the one that I've always just absolutely loved by them. And again, it's fun, it's poppy, it's energetic, you know, great synths throughout. The synth carries it throughout the entire song. Some of his delivery on the lyrics, I just love the way some of the syllables rolls off his tongue, especially kind of the part towards the end of the second verse, where he says he says something to the effect of, we can make love not war and live in peace with our hearts. And just the way he delivers it, there's such a beauty to the way those syllables rolls off his tongues. And just another one of those fantastic groups that made the 80s sound, the 80s dance electric sound fantastic, quite frankly.
You bring up Chains of Love, man. What a great line. You know, how can I explain when there are few words I can choose? And he just kind of goes into that and just front and center. Like, it is all about the vocals in those moments. And he is so good, man. Those are both great tunes.
Yeah.
So here's one. This is going to be another band that I picked up in the 80s that fell in love with. This is going to come out of the band The Clash. And so we'll see if that's a big enough clue for people. Big Audio Dynamite. And the song for me is going to be E equals MC squared. My two favorite tracks on here are Medicine Show and E equals MC squared. Just fantastic tracks. I mean, they're just so good. And the synthesizers, again, you know, this is going to be the Clash with synths. This is going to be the pop, you know, and I guess Clash use it too. Clash isn't going to be as like punk as like a lot of other punk stuff, but this almost takes it to another level in terms of more poppiness. But yeah, Medicine Show and E equals MC squared, just fantastic everything, man. They did such a great job of integrating a full tune by using so many different, like, this is wall and this is layers of sound, with clips from like movies kind of overlaid into it and coming in and out of it, and great guitars and drums and bass and synths, and it's just a lot of layering going on. And the synths are really cool. I've always loved this. As to me, their best album. I know they did a couple. People would argue which one's best, but man, when you're talking about Medicine Show, E equals MC squared, and even Sony is on here, I got to go with this one. This one is Big Audio Dynamite. So Another great use of synthesizers in the 80s right there.
Nice. That's a band I know I've heard things by, but I am not well versed with their catalog at all. I have to check that out in a little more depth.
Yeah. Even if just check out the greatest hits, see what you think.
Nice. All right, next here, Roxy Music.
Ooh,
it's off
yes.
their album Avalon, and I'm going to go with the song More Than This. I'm sorry, the song Avalon. I take that back, because like More Than This actually is one of those songs where you think about it as being a synthy song, but there's not really a bunch of synth in it at all.
Right.
But Avalon is definitely one that carries that synth, or the synth leads the song a lot more.
And it's very pretty synthesizer. Yeah, it's so cool, man.
Yeah, and it's almost like always hear kind of like a soft, almost like almost like a feeling of a Jamaican type of I'm trying to describe something more than like what the actual playing is, but it's almost like something you would hear, like a very soft, mellow, soft rock type of Jamaican groove, but when played with the synth, it doesn't come across that same way. It could almost be,
that would almost be like the what do you call those drums? I had it in my head and now I forgot. The metal drums.
The Congo drums? Is that what
no, the metal drums that in Jamaican music. What is it called? Someone in the chat help me. What are those drums called?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
What the heck are those drums called? Someone help me. The metal Jamaican drum where it's got the different pitches go around. Steel drums. Yes, the steel drums.
Okay.
In a way, and so what you're making me, I'm sorry. I don't want to like jump in on you.
No, go for it.
And mess this up because I couldn't even remember the name of the drum. But yeah, steel drum. It's almost like those keyboards are like a slowed down version of like a steel drum in this sense. And that's what made me think of like the whole Jamaican thing. Yeah.
Right. That's exactly what I'm saying. So there's automatically kind of this floaty, almost like on the water, relaxing, laid back in type of space with the song. And then of course, Ferry comes in with his amazing lyrics and everything else and all of that. And it's just another one of their fantastic songs. This is actually my favorite album by Roxy Music. I mean, I know some of the earlier stuff gets a lot more props, but this, between Avalon and More Than This.
Yeah. Avalon is a masterpiece again. I love that tune.
Love it.
So beautiful. Everything about it. And yeah, I mean, like AA saying, like a lot of people hate on that. Yeah, it's interesting. Something happens in a band and their music maybe changes a little bit, and some people are like, I'm out. And oftentimes it's not bad and it can be great. I make an argument for Devo, total Devo. And this is maybe a deeper cut. A lot of people maybe don't know about it, but it's like, first of all, people will be like, I only like the first Devo album. Or they'll say, terrible albums started at like Total Devo, Shout. Total Devo is a maturer version of Devo, yes. And it's not as like quirky as the other stuff, but it is freaking great. If you just let it, you just have to like not be biased. You know what I mean? It's hard. It's hard. And I think an Avalon record you just pulled up is the same thing for Roxy Music fans, right? It's kind of the one where people are like, that, like it was AA that said, that Brian Eno had left the band and stuff.
Yeah, it's like they've just gone 80s, that kind of thing, or whatever else. But
that doesn't make it bad. It's still great.
Exactly. It's like, but is it a good album? Who cares?
Exactly.
That type of thing.
Yep. All right, next one for me. Let's get funky again. And I got the hype sticker on this one too, man. Even like a old price sticker on here. And this is going to be Cameo, Word Up. We got Word Up and Candy, both fantastic electro funk songs, and a great electric bass line in that Word Up, man. So good. So again, I'm kind of all over the place. I needed to show some love to some of the more funky groups that use synthesizers in a very different way. A lot of times to just carry a beat or to just bring some, I don't know, some extra depth to some of the sound. But Cameo, man, they rocked it, dude. And Word Up and Candy are two of the greats from this era and electro funk tunes. So again, gotta spread some love, word up, some great synths on there. So yeah, again, not Depeche Mode, but hey, great synthesizer sound on here.
Yeah, absolutely one of my favorites right there.
It's the code word. Absolutely.
And just so our channel doesn't get shut down or anything, you know, I feel like this has to be shown in a synth pop.
Oh, nice.
You know, psychedelic furs. And again, even though you might go through a number of songs and kind of realize there isn't a gigantic amount of synth, and in other songs you'll find out there's a ton. I think in the song "The Ghost in You," that's definitely one where the synths really shine quite a bit.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I'm more than happy to put that on the. Yep, there you go.
Yep.
More than happy to put that one on the table.
Absolutely. Another great tune, another sensitive tune, another one that just where the synthesizer contributes to that emotional sense that you get when you hear it. And you've pulled a bunch of them out today. And that's one of them, man, where you just hear those first notes on that like pipe organy sounding kind of synth. And it's like, oh man, let me get my tissue. Here we go. Here's one. So this is from a soundtrack, but this isn't the soundtrack. And this is a cool one. I just picked it up recently. I just love this as a thing, just as a piece of 80s pop culture. 6'6" Sputnik, flaunt it. This has the Love Missile F-111, I believe, from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a cool tune, fun tune, wild kind of tune, and perfect for that movie. And synths all over it, you know, from a bass synth to other stuff, and just in a way, kind of a goofy song, you know. But I had to show it some love just because I love to show that cover, man. Look at that. It's like so cool, man. But anyway, 6'6" Sputnik. And again, I have to remind myself of the tune every time because I can't memorize it. Love Missile F-111. Just a fun synthesizer tune. Yeah, don't tell me what they mean. Don't ask me what they mean by love missile, guys. I don't know. I'm just here to report the facts.
Well, here's one we're kind of going actually kind of deep into the 90s, but it's just as 80s synth as anything else that they did. Ultra, Depeche Mode.
Nice.
Going back to the DM.
There we go.
And yeah, this was the album that actually really got me into listening to Depeche Mode. You know, like I had heard Strange Love and stuff like that prior, and I liked those songs, but those songs didn't make me go dive into, let me find out more about this Depeche Mode. It wasn't until like this mid to late 90s when this album came out, I got completely obsessed with it.
Okay.
That I went and started finding the B-sides and everything to all the other Depeche Mode albums. And same thing I said about the one earlier. It's still like overall from front to back, this is more of Depeche Mode doing a slower, deeper, maybe darker kind of feel as opposed to some of the more upbeat stuff. But the song Useless is what I'm going with off of here. Again, it's just another one that just brings an intensity to the table, and just like some really good lyrics that just kind of makes you feel with some of the stuff that he's just kind of describing. I guess it's kind of like about himself and where he's at and things that are going on in his life. And I mean, just by the title, Useless. Like I always love the line, I'm sorry, where he says, "Here I stand the accused with your fist in my face." It's just, and again, without even going into what's said before or after, it was just kind of something about that line that's just really kind of expressed the turmoil he was in at the time. It's like, you know, like once again, here's the guy that's like always in trouble. Here's the guy that's always being accused of everything. And, you know, you're standing right here with your fist in my face. It's like what I've just come to expect. Like I'm useless, you know, kind of thing. It's just another just kind of depth to it, but fantastic album. Probably one of my top 3 Depeche Mode albums, actually.
Nice. Yeah, I think that era after Songs of Faith and Devotion, like that one, which I guess was 97, and then Exciter, which came out in 2001. the synths are very complex on those records. Like more so, it wasn't a dent, 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 dent. You know what I mean? Like by the
Right.
time they're getting into the late that era,
Mhm.
it's very layered and complex,
Yeah.
and super ambience coming through and stuff.
Mhm.
Very much more organic sounding, which is kind of how I describe certain like electronic bands and stuff. Well, there's some electronic bands that sound very electronic, and there's some that use it to sound way more just kind of organic, like a soundscape. I think that era of Depeche was kind of more that organic, like very like rich synths kind of
Yeah.
sound, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I've always said with that album, with so many of the songs, there's no space in between anything. There's not like
Yeah.
the drums here, a guitar here, or a synth here, a synth here. Like it's just every single inch of the space is full with that sound, and
Yeah.
that's what made it just kind of really dark, and it made it heavy. Well, maybe it's kind of a better way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great way to say it. Absolutely. Well, let's stay on Depeche. I know you picked a couple. I had to pick one, and I'm glad I picked one that you didn't pick. And I got to pick Music for the Masses. And the song I'm gonna the one I'm gonna spotlight is "Never Let Me Down Again," which just has that super unusual, unmistakable, dun, 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 boom, and it goes into the into the song, man. It's just
Mhm.
this. It's one of those sounds that you can't place what it is. Like, what's making that sound? But it's very identifiable. You hear it and you're like, oh, here comes Depeche Mode. But love that tune. Behind the Wheel. I mean, it's a masterpiece, dude. I know Black Celebration is fantastic too. You could start wherever you want. You want to start there, you want to start here. This
Just
is
start.
this is yeah. This is where I would have come in real time. Like I heard this. The 101 movie came out. That was their live show and stuff, and it was like that's what got me into Depeche. And I didn't quite go backwards yet. And then Violator come out, and that's when I was kind of like, all right, I'm in 100%, and just start buying all their records. But just very, I don't know what to say, man. Iconic use of synthesizers in an incredibly unique and identifiable way. Somehow creating these like unusual sounds that makes you just try to guess, like, how did they even create that sound?
Mhm.
That's the way I feel about it. And of course, it's a great tune. It's not like it's just about that. These are pop songs that are fantastic. So yeah, I want to start there with Depeche Mode. Got to give them some love with "Never Let Me Down" right there on Music for the Masses.
Yeah, it was just so interesting the way they took the synth like that, and it reminds me of like the first time I ever saw Depeche Mode. It was with the song "Strange Love," and they were performing on some award show or something like that. And again, like I saw it and thought it was like the coolest thing in the world. And now
Yeah,
when I think back on it, it's like almost everyone else that was performing on the show was the Cyndi Lauper, the 80s, neon bright, blah blah blah. And I remember one of the things that stood out to me about him is that he was just in solid black, like from top to bottom. It
yeah,
it was almost like they were just kind of making a statement that not even necessarily in a negative way, but like we're just on a different vibe with what's going on here with this 80s synth and all of that. We're not the colorful band. We're the dark, serious, more intense band kind of thing.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely couldn't have said it better myself. Can you guys hear this? I'm going to play a little something. I don't know if this is going to come through. You tell me if you can hear this, Brandon.
Nothing yet.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what it is. My audio is kind of not connected. I was gonna play the beginning of "Never Let Me Down Again" just because it's so iconic, but yeah, I gotta fix something in the mixer. All right. Yeah, you're absolutely right, dude. Did you go to, or did you just were you just kind of piggybacking on my my pick? I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, no, I was piggyback on yours because I
Okay.
had that kind of set to the side.
Oh yeah, yeah, right. Yep.
But yeah, but the next one, again, I'll go with one that's just kind of, I think, very common to this particular
Man, yes.
conversation. Aha, Take on Me, of course. Huge video, huge track. Again, really not much to say about that one at all. Everyone knows it. Just one of the most creative, legendary videos at the time. And yeah, I mean, it's not a heck of a lot to say about that one, really.
And the video, you said video too. Did you mention the video? Sorry. The
Yeah,
video was, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, even to this day, like, what's that thing? You see so many people putting up, shoot video shorts now. Because I guess they have the thing where you can make a video with you going from the live shot into the sketch or whatever.
Yeah, like a sketch, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, when you have something like that taking place, like pushing 40 years, 35, 40 years since you did that, it's kind of just one of those little things they can pat themselves on the back of, like, we made our stamp on pop culture at the time. Right. Because a whole generation later, people that didn't even grow up with us, or like they're using this creativity that we brought to the table, which is, it's kind of cool.
We talk, this creeps into the conversation so much when we talk, is just how much the 80s really contributed, how many moments, defining moments, how many unique moments. You could point to a million different moments from the 80s, and that's one of them. It's just another one of those iconic things about the 80s, because we had MTV and because, just a million different reasons. Yeah. Whether it's a tune or a video or an award ceremony, whatever it was, there's just so many moments that can come to mind. I could literally just sit here and rifle up 100 of them.
Right.
I wonder if, and again, it's always a battle of the eras, right? It's kind of like, if you grew up if the 90s was your thing, I have friends that are like a decade after me, and they could, they think the 80s are goofy or whatever. They just don't get it. They weren't there for it. I want to know, what's your 90s list then? What are what's the things that happened in the 90s that stand out to you as being super iconic, or the 2000s, because, and again, this isn't a challenge. It's just, man, I just have so many memories of the 80s where it's just such an iconic decade and so diverse. There was so much diversity in the music and movies and culture and just go down the list. But another example of that, the Aha song and video.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's the way I've always kind of described it, because I've had that conversation about a lot of different things, including like even, can there ever be iconic albums again? Like, can you ever have like a Nirvana Nevermind, or a Bob Dylan Blonde on Blonde, or Pink Floyd, what Dark Side, whatever case may be. And I think it's like with almost all things in pop culture, there may be one gigantic thing that comes around that particular time frame was the only one that got to experience it. Like it was not the only one that got to experience it. It was the first one to experience it. And the first is always going to have the staying power. It's like, we can put up a gazillion satellites now, and we can shoot, things all the way out and take pictures of Pluto and all of that. But nothing is ever going to touch One Small Step for Man, One Giant Leap for Mankind. Like that moment in everything space-wise, until maybe we find an alien, that is going to be a moment that will never be compared, or nothing can compare to it, no matter how grand that we do something, right? So like in the 60s, they had the Beatles, for a band to come along and do what it did to music. Maybe we kind of got that with Nirvana. Maybe we got it a little bit with, I don't know, whoever want to pick, Michael Jackson, or it's kind of whatever. But it's like the 80s was the time frame when they were the first with the videos. We were the first with imaging being as big as it was connected to music. And like I said, making a video like Take On Me and all of that. Much better videos have been made since, but these were the One Small Step for Man, One Giant Leap for Mankind. And they're always going to hold that spot. If it makes sense, man. I'm kind of rambling.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, something only happens first one time. Like once it happens, like that's it. So it's like, you're never
way to put what I rambled about for 2 minutes.
No, but I think you're right. We brought it up before. I think that's kind of what we came to, is that like you only get that first shot once. And so like when something happens that one time, it's like that's it. That was the moment. If you were there for it, you got to experience it, and that will stick with you forever. If you weren't, it's just not going to have the same meaning for you.
Right.
And all right. I only got a couple left here. This one is going to be, I had to pick a new order also. I went ahead and picked, so that album that you showed, Substance, is missing a lot of the singles because it's a double LP. But if you get the CD version, I guess there's a lot more content for it. And so, but in order to get some of those, you have to go out and get the singles by themselves. I did, because the one big song that I felt was missing off of Substance is called 1963. That's the B-side for True Faith. So this is the True Faith single. The B-side is 1963. I love this tune, man. It's so good. And kind of dark lyrics again. You know, what is it? Johnny, don't point that gun at me, you know, that kind of thing. And, you know, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. Bizarre love triangle. It's kind of a similar, almost a take on that.
Right.
But absolutely great, funky, a really great beat on this, a very danceable, funky beat on it, and some great synthesizers. So I wanted to call that out. You know, I love everything off of Substance. But now I'm kind of I'm seeking out all the other B-sides that weren't on that and kind of put together a little collection. And so this was where I had to start right here, 1963. Nice. Great tune, great synths.
All right. Why don't we go here next? Talk.
Ooh.
It's My Life. And of course, I'm going with the title track, It's My Life. I don't know. I feel like I'm just going to repeat the same thing I've said about all the previous songs too. You know, so it's like, well, I repeat it again. Just another one of those great.
And we are giving you guys 50 today, so yeah, it's kind of like hard not to repeat yourself.
Yeah, especially when you can't like necessarily play the tune and actually talk about very specifics.
Yeah,
that's always kind of tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, It's My Life, just another fantastic one. Just love that mellow delivery that again has what I label as that UK vocal type of delivery. The video I've always thought was kind of weird. I've never fully understood the video to it, but yeah, just another fantastic one there.
That's a great one. A great song. Redone by what's her name from I'm not even gonna remember her.
Who was it that did that?
She's on The Voice now, I think. It's one of the judges. What's her name? No Doubt. Yes. What's her name from No Doubt? Yes.
Gwen Stefani.
Gwen Stefani. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. She did some justice to it. She did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I thought it was cool, man. I like the original. Of course, that's the one that I heard for years first. So it's hard, you know, to be that kind of objective about it. But yeah, a great song. Fantastic song. Man, dude, you are killing it with these jams. So this is my last one because I was going to pick the exact same song that you picked on Psychedelic Furs. So this is my last one. And this one is, I think, a great way to kind of cap it off is U2, The Joshua Tree.
Almost grabbed that one.
And the tune is going to be Where the Streets Have No Name. And when you hear how that comes in from like absolute silence and slowly builds. And it's another one of those almost like Don't Never Let Me Down Again, where it's kind of it's kind of an unusual synth sound, and it's layered synths. And sorry guys, let me just fix that. Okay. And it's beautiful. Again, I think Brandon's doing a great job of pulling out a lot of beautiful songs. I think that this is a beautiful one. Where the Streets Have No Name. And there's a lot of great synths on here. But for me, I'm going to pick that one just because of the way it loads up that first track, man, with just those swirling synthesizer sounds. And it's already making you emotional just because it's so beautiful. And then as that gets going, and of course you got the Edge's guitar that is, again, crazy for that kind of guitar sound, which is really just a lot of like a delay on those on his guitar, which creates this like haunting echo sound. Everyone knows it, you know, it's the U2 sound, but it's also, he plays in a way that's also very emotional somehow, you know, and stuff. Yep. So it's great. Very ambient sounding band, I think, especially at this point when they got here and moving forward. Yeah, I mean, I can't say it enough. I love this album. Where the Streets Have No Name is a beautiful tune. And it just, again, those synthesizers, the way that sound wells up into something, it's almost, you're welling up as the same time the sound is, at least for me. So had to give that one some love.
Yeah, that was one of the great things that the Edge did. Like you were talking about that delay that comes in his guitar. And it's like the more and more powerful that delay is, the more his guitar takes on a synth type of role. And you can go
Yes.
listen to so much of their stuff. And sometimes when you make that combination between an amazing melody and he's almost delivering it like a synthesizer would, like, well, no wonder he makes such amazing moving music. He's playing a 6-string synthesizer.
That's a
That's what
great
it kind of
point.
boils down to. Dude is
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely.
Dude is amazing.
Oh. All
All
right,
right,
what you got?
Okay, I'll show one more. Then I'll just flash. I have like maybe 5 that are left. I'll just flash those really quick. But the one more that I would show here would be, the one and only Peter Gabriel. Who did a lot of cool stuff bouncing between some strange stuff, some synth stuff, some poppy stuff. Depending on where you kind of fall in his catalog. But always think about the song "Games Without Frontiers."
Oh man.
Again, because of the simplicity inside of it, like there's not a bunch going on. So a lot of the synth stuff seems to be kind of very isolated, and there's still just kind of a strange coolness that he has with his vocal deliveries inside of that. So I thought Game Without Frontiers would be a great one to represent a slightly different style of synth approach as compared to some of the more new wavy stuff that we've been talking about.
Such a good one.
Yeah. And then just kind of like just to flash really quick, the ones I didn't get to. Sanctify Myself, Simple Minds. I thought that was one. Arrested by You, Rupert Hines. It's his song off of Better Off Dead, which is absolutely great. And Why Me by Planet P. I thought that might be one that maybe people haven't seen really people talk about in the VC, but definitely another cool one to check out. If You Were Here, Thompson Twins.
Yes.
And one of my Depeche Mode standbys, in case you picked it, Love in Itself. That's a great one. And then the last one here, kind of going back to how the 80s started well into the mid 70s, Moving in Stereo.
Oh, yes.
I mean, just one of the ultimate synth tracks. And I just showed this in a recent What's Been Spinning video. And I think one of the things I said about it was, like, this came out, 75? Something like that.
Is it that early, really?
75, 78, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the thought of like how well they had already perfected the 80s sound long before the decade even came into play. And they had already had like the perfect template of, yeah, here's Let the Good Times Roll, My Best Friend's Girl, Just What I Needed, Moving in Stereo, Bye Bye Love. Jeez.
You're right. You said it perfectly. That's the template for the 80s, man. It's like,
yeah, it was like knocking on everybody's doors. Hey, this is what we're going to be doing for the next decade.
Yeah, guess what we're doing for 10 years. Yeah, exactly. Just want to let you guys know.
Just letting you guys know. This is what we're doing the next decade.
MTV's like 3 years away, and they're doing that. It's like
amazing, man.
Wild.
Awesome debut album.
Ooh, man, great stuff, dude. Man, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I'm impressed by us. We pulled out 50 albums. We only had like one duplicate, really.
Yeah.
And between the two of us, I think we captured a lot of that 80s synth stuff. So that is cool stuff, man. Of course, you could do 50 more, but good stuff, man. That was really cool.
Yeah. It would it'd just be so much nicer if we could actually play stuff here on YouTube.
I know.
And actually dive into the, like, really feel it, because it's hard to put that stuff into words,
Music in the house. That's a great idea, dude. Make a playlist that would make a sweet mixtape. Yeah, that's a great idea, man. Maybe we do that and put a little link in there for you guys. Yeah, that's a good idea. When my sound's working right, I can play stuff. The problem is not just like doing it technically, but it's YouTube, right? It's kind of like I did the one time I tried doing that, I did I remember it was like a guitar solo video, and it's not on YouTube. It basically got blocked. The only people that saw it were the people that were there live, and it was me and Chris, and I did like 10 best guitar solos or something, and I was playing like not even the tracks off the record. I was playing like live music from other YouTube videos, and they blocked me with every single one of the songs I played got a strike except one. It was like 9 out of 10 of them. I don't know how to avoid that. I know people do it, but I don't know, man. So, but it would be fun just to even play a few seconds of it, maybe that would get through, and then people can kind of hear it and remember, like, oh yeah, I have heard that.
Right.
When AA says one day YouTube will allow you to use copyright music, but yes, for now it's sad we can't hear the music. Yeah, I've even thought, and again, this is just kind of, we'll let you guys go here pretty soon, but I was thinking of even creating a Patreon or something, not charging for it, but just trying to do something where we could do videos with music, and it wouldn't be, we wouldn't have to be constrained by the platform that we're on. We could just do it, and then people could just watch that stuff on like Patreon or something, or maybe even Twitch or something like that. I know people get away with it on Twitch, but there's other options out there. I just got to put some thought into it. But anyway, well, dang, dude.
Another great one, man.
Another fun time. Always love Wednesdays, man. And you always give me lots of stuff to go back to, and either refresh my memory with, or just stuff that I either never heard or can't remember. And so I got to go back and check some of that stuff out.
Yeah. I think it's what I'm going to do. I got all this stuff pulled out, and we've been talking. I mean, I'm just gonna start spinning some individual songs right now. Not playing the whole albums, just going to some of these songs we talked about. It's like I need to hear them.
There you go. Absolutely. All right, man. All right, guys. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate you guys. Music in the house. Thanks so much. AA, Vinyl Dreamscape, Perfect Prescription, Wyoming Dave, always in the house. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. We'll be back next Wednesday for another one. We'll see what we have up our sleeve for next week. Whatever it is, it might tug at your nostalgic, hit you in your nostalgic bone again, because that's where we like to go. You can, of course, on my channel, you can catch the Surface Noise B-side just tomorrow night. So I will be here for that. And we'll just keep the train going, man. Brandon, thank you. I'm so glad we get to do this, man.
Absolutely. Appreciate it as always, man. Another fun one.
Absolutely. All right, you guys. Good night, everyone.
Have a good one, guys.